What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I wanted to do a wrap up for the Gentlemen's Club Challenge and also talk about the Memorial with you guys. Two great tournaments. Super stoked to have the real season begin. I know the Australian Open happened and it was cool. We got to see some golf and some incredible play. But it was just such an exclusive event, and there weren't that many players there. I just don't consider it the start of the season so much. It seemed more like a warm-up. You know, it's kind of weird that it's a major, too, but, you know, UC Maresma gets to do all kinds of weird stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Like, start the season off with a major that nobody can go to besides the top, whatever, few percent of the top players can actually afford to go there based on sponsorship help or just, I don't even know. How else would you get there? Family money, a good career outside of disc golf. I mean, it's incredibly cost prohibitive to fly to Australia and all that stuff. So how that was a major, I don't quite understand, but whatever. Nobody asked me about this stuff. I wanted to talk some results with you guys. Also wanted to just talk about some of the stuff I noticed and my opinions on some of this stuff and just ramble about golf. Well, you guys know I like to do that. It's basically what this channel is all about, is me talking about disc golf in various aspects, and occasionally you guys get to look at a shiny disc. That's about all you get out of this. So if you're not enjoying that, I'm not sure why you're here. So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the podcast. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I'm going to try to make it a point to do more of these wrap-up shows, and I'm actually thinking about trying to wrangle up a guest or two for this show. That would be a lot of fun as well. So we'll see where it goes, but I like doing the podcast. I like it. You guys are, a few hundred people are checking them out and leaving their opinions in the comments and stuff. Keep all that stuff coming. Let me know what you thought about the Gentlemen's Club and the Memorial, the coverage, whatever other topics you want to bring up. It's all open and on the table. So it goes without saying, since this is a wrap-up show, I'm going to be talking about the winners of these events. First of all, for the Gentlemen's Club Challenge, Ricky Wysocki took it down. Really just controlled the tournament, throughout. Basically, he came out firing round one, shot 8 down, took his only bogey, I believe, of the entire tournament on hole 17 of the first round, but still shot the hot round of the day, 8 down, and really just set the pace, Here I am, come get me, and nobody was able to. These courses were on a golf course complex called the Wild Horse, it seemed like they put some pretty interesting, layouts. 3 full courses out there, one of which was named after Disc Golf Values, was the principal sponsor. I'm not really sure what that is. I'm assuming it's a shop, like a pro shop or something. I'm really not sure. I'm ignorant on that, to be perfectly honest. Then there's also the Innova course, pretty self-explanatory, and also the Adidas Terex course. So shout out to Adidas. That's pretty cool that they're coming into the game. Terry actually brought it up on Smashbox last night. Not that it's not amazing that Adidas is coming in and sponsoring stuff and seeing the value in our game, and that we're exploding, and that our athletes and our top professionals are amazing players and really impressive athletes. That it's a great game. It's a professional game, so it's great that they're kind of catching on. But big shout out to Keen. Keen Footwear has been out there and really supporting disc golf and disc golfers, and for quite a while. So the Adidas is not the first footwear manufacturer to get involved. Obviously, you have Vibram as well, who make their own shoes, as well as making really excellent rubber outsoles for other companies. My New Balance hikers that I wear for disc golf have Vibram outsoles on them. Highly recommended. They last forever. I'm a big guy, and I wear them every time I play disc golf, and it takes a tremendous amount of time to wear in those Vibram outsoles. They're solid stuff. So yeah, three layouts on a golf course complex. It seemed like Ricky was kind of bringing his Worlds 2016 Worlds kind of game plan to this event, where he's just taking his birdies. He's not going for these par fours to try to get there in one. He's just playing really straight up golf. It seemed like most of the a lot of the holes on Disc Golf Values course. There was a lot of par threes and stuff. He picked up quite a few of them. Again, only the one bogey on the course. You're going to hear me clicking throughout this podcast, so nothing I can really do about it. Moving on to the Innova course, he once again is just playing lights out, bogey-free, 9 down, and something he was doing consistently, and it's kind of his move, is he'll play occasionally, his drives or his upshots will leave a little short, but you pretty much can't count him out. He's going to jam those putts from almost anywhere. You know, anything within 80 feet, he's drawing metal so consistently. It's just insane. And if he's not drawing metal, he's taking a nice, you know, he's hyzering out just in front or just behind the basket, and he's always right in the hunt there. And what he does a lot is he'll kind of end up playing behind the other competitors, whether from his drive or from his approach. And you might think, oh, you know, I have a chance to catch a stroke on him right here. You know, he's like 65 out. I'm like 35 out. And here comes Rick, steps up, jams the putt, dead center, right in the heart. And now you've got yourself, you're looking at your little edge of the circle putt, and you're like, damn, I got to hit this now or else I'm losing another stroke to Rick. You know, so you go from thinking you're going to get one on him to feeling like you need to defend it in a heartbeat. You know, he just does that over and over and over again. When he's playing at his best, it's just so hard to deal with when he's just jamming in putts from everywhere, you know. So once again, he shoots 9 down, tying Johnny McRae, who shot really well that day. Johnny McRae had 10 birdies and 1 bogey, but Ricky bogey free, you know. And if he's not going to get the birdie, he's not going to take a bogey. You know what I mean? He's just leaving it, just playing that really consistent golf. That's really hard to track down, and he just keeps putting on that pressure. And, you know, since this is the Plastic Podcast, I also wanted to mention it seems like Ricky's throwing the anchor quite a bit. He's throwing a lot in the Australian Open, the Aussie Open. It's that bright orange mid-range that he's throwing quite a bit, and he's looking really consistent, confident with that disc. I have a full review on that coming out soon. Pretty much done testing it. It's it's a one round disc. You know, like after one round, if you don't know what it's going to do, I don't know what to tell you. It's extremely consistent, nice overstable disc. It's a great complement to the Saki Bomb Compass as an overstable disc. So, yeah, Ricky throwing that one quite well on a lot of approaches, and some of the drives where he maybe if he really, you know, stabled up and really tried to rip on an enforcer or a defender or something, he could get there. He'd rather just throw that nice smooth shot with a mid-range or something, put it in the middle of the fairway, chip up on the par 4, and tap in his easy 3. He doesn't care if you occasionally take a 2, he's still going to take the 3, and what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? He's still got you by several strokes. So now round 3 on the Terex course from Adidas sponsorship, he shoots another 10 down. Another bogey-free, 10 under par, just crushing the field. Johnny McRae, was pretty close. Paul Macbeth came out firing that day, shooting also a 9 down, which is a tremendous round as well. But Ricky at that point was still in the lead by quite a few. Heading into the finals, we saw Paul Macbeth really put on a strong charge, shoots an unbelievable 11 down, including a bogey on the final round, but just wasn't quite enough to catch Rick. He had that cushion, and he doesn't make any mistakes. Again, 0 bogeys in the entire final round. He only shoots 6 under par, but that's all he needed. He still won by a couple of strokes, and that was it. He won by two throws, and he's kind of realized, as he's kind of matured as a player, that he doesn't got to win by 6 or 7 or whatever. You know, he can win by 1 throw. He can win by 2 throws. You know, if he's not going to make the mistake, then somebody else is going to have to do something incredible. And even with Paul Macbeth charging, you know, hole 1, they both par, then they both birdie, another par, then Paul Macbeth goes 2, 4, he hits a bogey in there. That was kind of unfortunate for him. Then he gets another 2, which is an eagle on 7. Then he gets another 2 on 8, then par, another birdie, 3 on 10. Couple of pars, then he hits the ace that everybody saw on SportsCenter on hole 13, and at that point, you know, you got to think that Ricky might be a little bit concerned here, but here's where Ricky closes the door. 14, 15, and 16, he matches Paul 3 for 3. They're all par 4s, and they hit the turkey Paul hits the ace straight into a turkey, so an eagle and 3 birdies right after that. But Rick hit birdie, 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 14, 15, 16, and that was it. He played smart, safe golf for the last 2 holes, carried that 2-stroke victory in for the win. So congrats to Ricky Wysocki. Clearly, no surprise that I'm stoked to see him win. In the final standings here, if I can click over to that real quick. Final standings, you got Ricky Wysocki, Paul McBeth ending up in second place by 2 strokes. Eagle McMahon, a few strokes behind him, with more great play to start the year. Another big bomber course that Eagle was really attacking. Had some phenomenal play out there. A couple of giant drives on some of those big open shots. Johnny McRae, the current Masters World Champion, coming out swinging, proving that he can clearly still hang in the Open division, coming out in 4th place. So congratulations to Johnny as well. He's just a really solid player. Jale Store from Finland, he is in 5th place, tied with Cale Laviska and Nate Sexton. You have Austin Turner and tied for 8th place with Paul Ulibarri and Bobby Music, and then Jeremy Colling just technically outside the top 10 in 11th place. Jeremy was on the lead card at one point, had a little bit of trouble. He had a couple of really unfortunate rollaways and some putting mishaps. No doubt still trying to get used to his new plastic as an interval player. In the Open women's field at the Gentlemen's Club Challenge, Paige Pierce comes out with the victory, ending up winning by 3 strokes over Katrina Allen after having a very tough round in the finals, and really being very thankful for the tremendous cushion she had going into that round, or else she could have lost it right at the last second to Katrina. Jennifer Allen came up in 3rd by only 1 stroke, and Evelina Salonen I believe she's from Finland. She's really fun to play. I'm really excited to see where she ends up, as she continues to mature and learn more and more from competing against the top women in the world over here in the U.S. I think it's just going to benefit her. She has a really strong power hyzer game, great putting that was on display at the Gentlemen's Club Challenge. Really great coverage for the entire event, so there's lots of stuff for you guys to go check out and catch up on if you missed any of it. Evelina tied with Sarah Hokum for 4th place. You got Elaine King in 6th place, proving that she is still very, very relevant in the female pro open division. You have Jessica Weiss in 7th, Karina Knowles in 8th, and Ellen Widboom in 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Madison Walker. The difference between even 4th place and Paige, even after a very disappointing and tough final round for Paige Pierce, still between her and 4th place, it's like an 8-stroke difference, and she still won by 3 strokes. Let me go back to the individual scoring here, hole by hole scoring, and talk about some of the stuff that went on. Now, for some reason, my computer does not want to give me the individual scoring for the Female Pro Open. I even tried refreshing the page; it's not working very well. So you could just by score alone, Katrina ends up playing 10 strokes better than Paige in the final round, but still ended up losing by 3 strokes to Paige Pierce. So congrats to Paige. She seems really comfortable with the Dynamic Disc sponsorship. She's kind of, she feels like she's back home in a way, it seems. She seems a lot, kind of back to normal. Her last season was really challenging for her. She did not seem like herself at all, and it was kind of rough. So Gentlemen's Club Challenge seemed like a great start to the season from my perspective. All good stuff there. The coverage was really great. Smashbox had a little bit of issues, mostly technological based, which is usually their issue. They do a great job, and they put in the effort. And when the technology cooperates with them, they do really great stuff. But there's only so much you can do when you start to have those issues. With whatever it is, cameras and microphones and stuff like that kind of stuff is just. It is what it is, it either cooperates with you or it doesn't, and it's real hard to do anything about it. But yeah, seemed like a great start to the season. It's wonderful to see everybody out there playing again, and it was relatively cold and windy in Vegas, and that seemed like a challenge. We talked about the ace from Paul, we talked about Ricky winning, playing just great golf, a lot of huge shots out on these big open, ball golf course, not transfer, but converted into a disc golf course. It seemed like they did a good job. There's some kind of weird holes out there. Like there was one that was like a triple island that people ended up kind of like jump putting from one island, from the tee to an island, from that island to the next, and that island to the next, and then tapping in. It was kind of wacky. I think they were trying to set it up so that you could go for it, but it seemed like it was such a tough landing spot that absolutely nobody seemed to actually go for it. A couple of people pitched over to the first island and then tried to go for the last one where the basket was, and I don't think it worked out very well for anybody that did that. So, very boring hole as it ended up in the coverage, but what are you going to do? So that's about it for the Gentleman's Club Challenge. Shout out to Dixon Jowers real quick. If anybody is missing the Inside the Circle podcast, I was a fan. I was definitely following closely with that podcast. All last season I thought it was great. It was Bobby Brown, Eric McCabe, and Dixon Jowers, and they were kind of breaking down tournaments that already happened and looking forward to the next one. And I thought they did a great job. And, just Dixon Jowers kind of moved on from Dynamic Discs. He's no longer working with them. And Bobby is just way too busy with other stuff that if anybody's been paying attention, Bobby's been posting a ton of content. Eric with all of his course design stuff, plus Disc Golf Answer Man. It just wasn't on the cards for them to continue doing that. But Dixon Jowers started his own podcast, which is called On the Box, and I found it on my podcast app, which I prefer, which is Podcast Addict. So you can find it on there, unlike the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast, which is only available on YouTube because I'm a goofball. Disc Golf, On the Box with Dixon Jowers podcast. It's called On the Boxes Podcast. You can find it on Podcast Addict and, obviously on other podcast apps as well. I really enjoyed that. Dixon's doing a great job doing basically the same stuff that they were doing with Inside the Circle, a slight twist to it, and it's just him doing his thing. So, really great. I definitely recommend you guys go check that out if you're into the tournament analysis type of stuff. Dixon does a great job of that and brings a lot of knowledge and experience from his own playing days, as a professional disc golfer to the show and his analysis. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Let's move on to the Memorial Championships presented by Discraft. This one was out in Arizona. It was contested at 3 different courses. They played the first round at Fountain Hills. Then I believe they moved on to Fiesta Lakes. Then the third round they played Vista del Camino, and then back to Fountain Hills. I believe that was how it went down. Let's start in the female pro open division this time. Paige Pierce just absolutely destroyed the field at the Memorial, and there was no keeping up with her. It was just far too much for the rest of the division to handle. Trying to look at it overall, she ended up winning by many strokes. Let's see here. Yeah, she ended up at 8 down for the tournament with her next competitor at Sarah Hokum at 5 over par. So that's a big margin of victory. She's the only competitor in her division that was even under par, and she was almost in double digits under par just by a couple of strokes. So starting with round 1, I'm looking at UDisc now, so it's a little bit different to try to wrap my head around than the PDGA live scoring here. For round 1, she ends up shooting 3 under par, only 1 bogey out of Fountain Hills. Sarah Hokum got into trouble straight away with a 5 on hole 1. She took a 4 on hole 4. Paige only had 1 4, 1 bogey for the whole round, which was on hole 3. The rest of the round, she either parred or took a couple of she took 4 birdies there and finishes under par. Then moving into round 2, Paige once again besting the field. She actually tied Sarah Hokum, it looks like, on this round at I believe this was at Fiesta Lakes. Yes, her and Sarah tied at 1 under par. Valerie Jenkins right there at 2 over for the day. We'll talk about Val in just a moment here. Then moving into round 3, Paige actually shoots over par for that round at Vista del Camino. at 1 over, but the next best score was 2 over by Sarah Hokom, still hanging there in second place. Katrina Allen was not doing quite as well as she would have hoped for this event, struggling quite a bit. The last round, she had some troubles for sure out there, and ended up way out of contention from for a player of her skill level. Katrina Allen, one of the best to ever play, certainly one of the top three, if not top, easily top two, top three in the world. Really did amazing last year. Is off to a little bit of a rough start. She pushed Paige really hard at the Gentlemen's Club, and was not really in contention for anywhere near contention for the Memorial, unfortunately. So yeah, Paige Pierce comes out round 4 with one of the best shots you'll ever see on hole 1 at Fountain Hills. Puts it to about 2 feet away. Shout out to Central Coast for putting out great women's coverage for the event. You can see that shot firsthand. It was really amazing. Then she gets another 2 on hole 3. 1 bogey for that round on hole 7. Picked up 4 more birdies after the fact, including 17, ending at 5 down, and really just demolishing the field. Valerie Jenkins shoots under par that day, bogey-free 3 down, which is a great round at Fountain Hills for her. And Valerie Jenkins finishes up in 3rd place, so really cool to see Val come in and compete up there. You can pretty much bet on it that she's done almost 0 practice going into this event. She's so busy with so many other things. She just started using this brand new bag of plastic, all Discraft. She announced that she's with Discraft now, as I mentioned in the last episode of the show. And she did a really phenomenal job with brand new plastic, and just ends up in 3rd place at a huge Disc Golf Pro Tour event, the Memorial. Really out of just pure skill and pure athleticism and experience. Probably almost 0 practice going into this. Maybe she played a couple of practice rounds before the event, but it's not like she's out there doing a lot of putting practice or a ton of field work, leading into this. And again, all brand new discs. But, I'll put it out there now. As much as I'm impressed by the fact that she took a whole, bag full of brand new plastic from Discraft out there and still competed to such a high level, coming 3rd with, all of the best female players in the world at this event. You could give Val a plastic bag full of random plastic. She's going to beat 99.9% of the other women in the world at disc golf with whatever disc you give her. She's just so good and has so much experience that it's really hard to compete with that. If you're not playing at your best and she's anywhere near her best, it's going to be real tough to compete with Val Jenkins. So great round for Val. Happy that she has settled into Discraft. I think it's sensible. I don't know if sensible is the word. I think it makes sense, though. I think it makes sense that she is now with Discraft. Her and Nate, they can kind of, compare notes on discs, even though I don't think there's much overlap other than the buzz, with Nate throwing so hard and having such a love for overstable plastic that he likes to break in, and his super old school bag setup that he has going on. But yeah, so I just think it makes sense for Val to end up at Discraft. They seem to be committed to implementing the changes that she felt were important to her, and good on them all around. I'm happy for Val, and happy to see her compete well. But yeah, Paige Pierce, all said and done, ends up just absolutely destroying the field at the Memorial Championships, and says in the post-round interview that she feels like unless she beats herself, that it's going to be really hard for anybody to take her out. And based on a performance like that, it's how do you argue with that, to say that unless she is off her game or kind of gets in her own head, she's playing at her potential based on the evidence we've seen from some of these recent events. It's going to be really hard for anybody to catch her, whether you're Val or Katrina or Sarah Hokom, all world champions, all amazing players in their own right. Paige Pierce is so dialed right now. She's throwing so far. Her power and her form is just so pure. She's just ripping discs down the fairway, and she seems to be really confident and consistent with her plastic. So great to see that. I've been a huge Paige Pierce fan for years. I really love her form and her throwing style. Her play has just been really phenomenal to watch, and it's great to see her back at her best. So, yeah, big congratulations to Paige and all the other women competing at the Memorial Championships this year. Did I give you guys a top 10 for this event? Let's do that real quick. Paige Pierce, as we discussed. Sarah Hokum finished in second place. Valerie Jenkins, a few strokes away from her. Katrina Allen, only one stroke back from that in fourth place. And you got Jessica Weiss, another top 10, solid finish from her. Evelina, again, competing with the best in the world and showing that she has the ability, all the skills and raw talent to be able to get up there once she puts together some more experience and maybe a little more maturity and just, kind of learns how to win a little more at the highest level. I think she's going to be a real force to deal with for these ladies out there on tour. Lisa Ficus in 7th place. You got Jennifer Allen in 8th. Zoe Andyke and Vanessa Van Dyken tied for 9th. So that is the rundown for the ladies. Excuse me, the female Pro Open at the Memorial Championships. So moving on from the female Pro Open, we have the men's Pro Open division, and it was a tightly contested battle for most of the event, as it tends to be at the Memorial. Fountain Hills providing, it seems like it should be a relatively challenging course, but there's consistently players shooting double digits under par at this course, and I love seeing it. I love seeing people compete at Fountain. I think it makes for a wonderful spectator course. It's just, I like it. I understand people say it's kind of boring, there's not enough trees, but it's a different kind of game, and I dig it. I like seeing them play out Fountain. It feels like the real beginning of the season to me, as a little bit of an old school disc golf fan. When they actually get out to the Memorial and start doing their thing, that's when I kind of feel like the season's finally underway. The Gentlemen's Club is usually almost more of like a warm-up type event, with this year it being promoted to a national tour, with the Memorial being a Pro Tour event. It kind of brought out the cream of the crop. Top players were out there, and usually it's some of the top players, but not all of them. A lot of them would just go straight to the Memorial and start practicing for that as the first big event, the first national tour event of the year. Not so much this year, with a little bit of a difference. There's very little time in between these two tournaments as well, which I think was pretty interesting. But, the Memorial Championships always seems like the first event of the year from my perspective. So coming out firing, right off the bat, the first round, Simon Lizotte shoots 11 under par. Ricky Wysocki shoots 10 under par. Just a couple bogeys for Simon, only one for Rick. Yeah, Nate Sexton shot 11 down in that first round. Cale LaVisca shot 10 down. Eagle McMahon shot 11 down. Philo shot 10 down. KJ shot 10 down. So you can see that there's a lot of scoring potential at Fountain Hills, but I like that. I think it's fun. It's fun to watch, and it always keeps it really close. Because if you're not birdieing a lot of these holes, you just fall out of contention really quickly. I guess to steal from Smashbox, you got to send out a big hug to Nico LaCastro for having just a disastrous hole one of the Memorial Championships. Ended up taking a 7. He throws first shot, never had a chance. Heiser's out into the lake. Throws another one, and again, Heiser's out into the lake. Then he moves to the drop zone, actually hits landfall over by the basket, and skips up, jumps up, rolls, and trickles up over the wall and into the water again. And then he tapped in from his OB lie close to the basket for just a disastrous round. But then he ended up rallying and shooting quite well for the rest of that round. I'm trying to track him down takes the 7. Then he gets a par, and then he goes birdie, birdie, par, birdie, 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 a couple of pars in a row, then another turkey, and a couple of pars, and another. So no other bogeys for the entire rest of the round for Nico. Ends up still shooting 5 under par with a 7 on hole 1. So quadruple bogey, and he still shoots 5 under par. So good on you, Nico. That's rad. He didn't seem to go on tilt. He kept his composure pretty well. And yeah, you got to give it up to Nico to shoot 5 down after taking a 7. Like it's basically the worst start you could possibly hope for. Nobody else, scrolling down through the UDisc scoring, not seeing anything worse than like a 5, or maybe there was a 6 in there somewhere. Nobody else took a 7. Yeah, there's a couple of 6s in there. Nobody else taking anywhere near that bad of a score. So that was kind of rough, but what are you going to do? So yeah, very tight race, Then you move into Fiesta Lakes, which I feel like Fiesta Lakes is a little. I don't know about Fiesta Lakes. I'm not sure it's really at the caliber of play. It seems like, if that was in your hometown and it was a place you go play a casual round with your buddies and just, mess around, throw some discs, it seems like it would be more than fine. Probably be a totally fun, cool place to play. But as a place for a national tour event or a disc golf pro tour event in this case to be contested, it just seems kind of wacky to me. Honestly, if it was up to me, it might sound kind of ridiculous, and obviously nobody cares what I think about, the Memorial Championships. I think it would make just as much sense do 3 rounds of Fountain Hills, and that's it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Best man wins, best woman wins. That's it. 3 rounds of Fountain, 1 round a day. If you really wanted to, you could do 2 rounds the first day with a break in between, and then 1 round Friday, 1 round Saturday, and just keep it at Fountain. Can you keep hitting those shots? Can you keep it out of the water over and over and over again? I think that would be interesting. But, they switch it up. They move to Fiesta Lakes. Let's look at some of the scoring for Fiesta Lakes. Paul McBeth shooting bogey-free, 11 under par, including a 5 birdie streak from 9 to 13. Then you have Simon Lizotte shooting 8 under par with 2 bogeys in there. But then after his second bogey on hole 7, birdieing 8 through 13, so 6 straight birdies there. You had Ricky Wysocki, who shot bogey-free, 8 down. That's including 2 penalty strokes for some weird scoring stuff that took place. So apparently some of the scores were wrong. He had like two holes were marked 3s that were actually 2s, and 1 hole that was actually a 2 was marked a 3. Yale Store was keeping scorecard that day. And somehow it came to light, I believe through the coverage, that it wasn't lining up with the scoring. And Ricky ends up taking a 2-stroke penalty on that, after that, which I think is unfortunate. I don't understand why you have somebody who you're competing against who's keeping your score, that if they mess it up, whether intentionally or not, let's face it, it opens the door for somebody to intentionally write your score down incorrectly. What's to stop somebody from doing that if they have bad intentions? We all know there are bad people out there that cheat and do stupid things. So whether intentionally or not, somebody writes down the score incorrectly, you don't catch that. You trust them to be a professional and have written down the scores that you told them during the round, and then all of a sudden you're losing 2 strokes based on that. I get it that Ricky should have checked it himself and double-checked it, but you look at the scorecard, you just played 18 holes of golf. Are you going to remember, oh, wait, no, I took a 3 here, I took a 2 here. It's a little bit tricky. So I don't know. I think it's kind of unfortunate. It happened again to Ricky in the final round with Paul McBeth keeping score, accidentally marks a 3 down for when Ricky had a 2. So it's marked down incorrectly, which is costing him a stroke. But then you stroke him 2 penalty strokes. So they corrected the score. So he ended up basically taking a 1. So they corrected down, right? So it's actually a 2. So it's 1 better than it was going to be. But then they tack on the 2 extra throws. So it ends up being a 1-stroke penalty, one stroke above what he actually shot. And it just seems really unfortunate. Why don't all 4 players on the card keep score for themselves and the other 3 competitors? You compare those scorecards at the end of the round before you turn one official scorecard in. You transfer over those scores to an official scorecard at the scoring tent. Hand that in to the Professional Disc Golf Association, or whoever is in charge of taking those scores and then making those official. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. Therefore, if one person has it wrong and the other 3 don't, then you caught the issue and you're preventing people from losing strokes and costing them, hundreds if not thousands of dollars when a couple of strokes changes your place. Ricky had solo 3rd place, and then after these penalties, ends up losing that and tying for third place with Dave Felberg, cost him quite a bit of money. So I think that's really unfortunate, but it's just kind of what happened. Luckily, Steve Dodge is totally the kind of guy who's going to see this issue happen firsthand, and hopefully he will implement, if not right away, he will be working on and talking about ways to implement changes in the way things are scored to prevent this from happening in the future. That's all I can really hope for, is that we don't have to worry about this happening much more to our top players. I think it's really silly. It makes everything look kind of goofy. And, tell me any other sport in the world that the dude you're competing against is in charge of keeping your score, and if he messes it up, you end up getting penalized. Tell me one other sport that happens, because I don't know of any. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So that happened. It's kind of unfortunate. We've talked about a couple of the scores out at Fiesta Lakes. Fiesta Lakes also has that really infamous little rinky-dink, 150-foot shot that's right next to that wall. It's really technical, and it didn't have a lot of great scores on it. There's a lot of rollaways and people thrown over the wall and stuff, but it just looks totally stupid. You're playing over by a storage shed that looks like Bill Murray's living in there from Caddyshack, and then you're throwing 150 feet along a brick wall, basically to this little strip of median there with stumps from bushes that have been cut down that you could hit and roll down. It seems like a really goofy hole for such a high level event. It's kind of silly. It is definitely a good indication, though, that length is not the only thing that makes things challenging. In fact, I'll put it out there right now. I think a short technical hole that's a must-get for these guys is a lot more challenging for most of our top players than a 600, 700-foot, mostly open par 4. These guys are murdering these par 4s. If you think adding more par 4s to a course is going to increase challenge and make it help with the scoring and prevent people from scoring too far under par, you are not paying attention, because our top players are shredding the par 4s that they're running into in a lot of these courses. If you make a par 4 that's 700 feet and you have players on the card that can throw over 450, I mean, it's not very challenging for a lot of these guys. Even if they shank a drive, they got 2 more shots to get to the basket to save par. And a lot of them, can get up there and try to attack these par 4s in one shot. I don't get the whole thing with, disc golf needs to be more challenging. We need more par 4s and par 5s. I don't think the stats and the percentages are really bearing that out. So let's move on from round 2. Round 3, we are at Vista del Camino. Let's look at some of the hot rounds from that day as well. Come on, you disc. Here we go. Paul McBeth shoots another 11 down with a bogey. From hole 6 to hole 14, he goes birdie, 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 bogey, birdie, birdie, birdie. That's just insane. Then he had a couple of pars, ends with two birdies in a row. And then you have Simon Lizotte also shoots 10 down. Ricky's there with a solid 8 down, even taking three bogeys in one round, which is very uncharacteristic for Rick at this point. Nate Sexton shredded Vista del Camino, 11 down, bogey free, just totally crushing it. And then moving into round 4, it was a pretty tight race for sure. I definitely recommend checking out the coverage for the final round if you have not already watched it. It is available not only from Smashbox. You can watch the full live, as it was streamed live. They also did the Smash Cut, which we'll get back to the Smash Cut in just one second, which is basically like a trimmed down version of the live coverage. No frills, no graphics, nothing, just cutting out all the filler and all the shots that they captured in their entirety, and that's it. You can watch the whole round in about 45 minutes. I think that's a great touch, and we'll talk about that again in a second here. And then Jomez did a phenomenal job covering the final round, and they had Nate Sexton and Paul McBeth doing commentary. I can find it somewhat awkward to have somebody who's on the card doing commentary sometimes. It's a little weird. See somebody shank a drive or something when they're doing commentary, and then it's a little bit awkward. But with Nate and Paul there, They have so much knowledge and obviously have a great rapport as touring partners and all that stuff, that it works out really well, and I really enjoyed it. Jomez just doing a phenomenal job on their coverage, just really doing great work, taking it to the next level over and over and over again. I was really happy that this event, it seemed like they put a little bit more of the course volume into the coverage. It really bothers me when all you can hear is the commentary and you barely even hear the chains, from the course. I would love to hear the player banter. I love to hear the spectators and the chains and the birds and the wind and all that stuff that you really get from Prodigy's coverage. Marty McGee, cannot be touched in his audio coverage of disc golf. His visuals are amazing. He uses really high quality cameras, but he picks up so much of that raw sound of the course that it makes you feel like you're on the card, and I really appreciate that. Put on some headphones and listen to a Marty McGee from Prodigy Disc Channel's coverage of any solid round. It's just really great. You hear all the little banter and all the different things that the players are saying to each other, and I love that. That's great for me. If you have commentaries, if it's good, I'm all about it. But a lot of the times, I would prefer just to hear the players chatter and the spectators, cheering and the chains and all that stuff over somebody just explaining and describing what's going on. But it's all a lot of personal preference stuff. Jomez totally killed it. Great coverage. Totally recommend watching it. It was a really tight battle. I watched it live. Pretty much in its entirety on Smashbox. Paul Macbeth, it's his tournament. He has such a stranglehold on this tournament. Like, even going into the round, he had a couple of strokes, I think, maybe one or two strokes on Simon, and I just saw no way that anybody was catching him. Even as a huge Ricky fan, knowing full well how dangerous Ricky can be, how hot he can get, knowing full well how dangerous Simon can be when he's chasing or when he's throwing well. Nate Sexton on the card is always a dangerous guy, always going to play to a very consistent level. You just don't see anybody catching Paul. It just didn't compute to me. It comes out in the first hole, Paul takes a 2, Simon gets a 4, missing, throwing in the water on the first shot, and then, a pars from Sexton and Ricky, and I'm like, that's almost it right there. Like, you're not gonna get a lot of chances to take a stroke on Paul at Fountain Hills. He just has such a strong hold on this event. So he comes out firing with 4 birdies straight, takes 1 bogey on hole 7, but then just nothing but pars and birdies after that, and really shut it down. He ends up shooting 11 down on the round and winning by a couple of strokes over Simon Lizotte, or I guess he just won by 1 in the end over Simon. So kept it super tight, Ricky, again, after being assessed those penalties, ends up in tie for third with Dave Felberg, who came out and just murdered Fountain on that last round, shooting 12 under par. Going, straight birdies from 2 to 6. He's got a par in there, birdie, par, and then another 6-pack of birdies after that, between 11 and 16, ending on 2 pars for 17 and 18, taking an amazing 12 down, bogey free, and jumping way up into which was solo 4th place, now a tie for 3rd with Ricky after the penalties are assessed. Then you have Cale LaVisca finishing at 34 under par with a great bogey free 9 down on the final round, tied for 5th with Nate Sexton, who shot well but just not quite enough to catch up. Then you had Philo Brathwaite, Eagle McMahon, and KJ tied for 7th, all at 32 under par, with Steve Brinster rounding out the top 10. Nice to see Stevie up there with a very, very solid 11 down final round, bogey free. He had himself a nice 6-pack of birdies in there from hole 3 to from hole 3 to 9 there. He put a nice streak together. So yeah, great stuff, great coverage by everybody involved. Huge props go out to all the filming crews out there, whether it's Smashbox doing the live coverage, Jomez just crushing it, Central Coast pulling double duty, not only doing the coverage they were doing, but also Corey going out and filming the women's cards that not only did they release separately as full Central Coast coverage of the female pro open division, the top card. But they also were able to bring in all of that footage and chop it up very quickly and implement it into the live round. So the live round for the men's pro open, the final round, and they did it throughout the tournament. You know, if everybody tees off, they're walking down to their next lie. You have a quick second in there rather than throwing a commercial in there. As much as they were able to, they put in a lot of different shots from the women's coverage. So kind of pulling double duty. I thought it was great. They did a great job with it all weekend. You got to see a lot of that female pro open action, a lot of the great shots and putts and big drives that they were throwing out there, which was really great. And also not missing any of the action from the men's pro open division. So yeah, just a great job put in, and just a tremendous amount of work put in by these production crews covering our sport, bringing it to us as fans, and I have a lot of respect for those guys, and I really appreciate all the hard work that they put in. Let's take a look at my notes here, see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about here. All right, let's talk about the smash cut, and then maybe I'll let you guys go. The smash cut, I guess it brought up a little bit of controversy. It was basically, like I described earlier, after the round was over, Johnny V back in the Milwaukee studio started taking the footage that they had, put out there live, trimming out a lot of the filler stuff and just putting all the shots from the live round that they were covering that day. And they were calling it the smash cut. They're putting it out there. No transitions, no scoreboards, none of that stuff. Just shot for shot. It was in good quality. It looked great on my TV. I mean, I loved it. It was awesome. A lot of it still featured Terry's live commentary, which was great. It often chopped out something that he was saying after everybody threw or something like that. It chopped up what he was saying because it was all just trimming down the live coverage. But I thought it was great. Apparently, there was some controversy around it where some folks were feeling like it was taking away from the edited production crews that were out there, like Central Coast and Jomez and Prodigy Disc. Here's what I have to say about that. The smash cut was obviously at a completely different level. The other thing is the smash cut was literally the exact same footage that was not only broadcast live, but after every live broadcast from Smashbox, you see that video is there. As soon as the round is over, usually maybe it needs to process or whatever, but that entire video is available there from, you can go watch it right now exactly as it was shown as live coverage. So all of the same footage is there for you to view if you want to after the fact. And nobody ever mentioned that might take away viewers from the edited coverage, but now you go in there and you trim out all the filler so that me, as a fan, as somebody, I have to go to work a couple of these days. I don't just sit around every day watching live disc golf for 4 hours. I'm at work or whatever. I come home. A couple hours after that, here's the smash cut. Of course I'm going to watch that. Why am I not going to watch that? There were times all last season where I missed the live coverage. I hide from social media, and rather than wait for Jomez or Central Coast or whoever to put out the coverage for the final round or whatever the round it was that I missed, I'll just stick on the Smashbox and just let it play. The thing that sucks about that is if you run into a half-hour backup, you're watching that whole half hour where there's no golf. It's commercials, maybe some interviews, and whatever. With the smash cut, they're trimming that stuff out, but it's the exact same footage that was already available. So I don't understand what the controversy is really about. Not that I don't understand the point that people are trying to make, but I don't think it's a valid point. Personally, my opinion is I don't think that's a valid point. The other thing is, if somebody watches the smash cut and they say that's good enough for me, I don't want to watch the Central Coast or the Jomez stuff, that's on them. It's not like Jomez is going out there to do this for fun. They're getting paid, and it's all part of their contract and whatever. You know what I mean? People, tons of people are going to watch it. It's not like people are like, oh, I watched 40 minutes of condensed, Smashbox with no graphics, no scorecards, no actual, full-on commentary other than, again, Terry's live commentary from the feed. I'm just not going to watch any. I watch both. I caught up on rounds that I missed and saw how the broadcast went, saw what happened. I like Terry's commentary style. I think he does a phenomenal job, and I like listening to him talk while I'm watching my golf. I'm used to it now as a big Smashbox fan. Somebody who tries to watch as much live coverage as I can. So I thought it was great. I have no trouble with it. I understand what people are saying, but I don't necessarily feel like it's valid. If people want to watch that and it takes away a couple of views from Jomez or Central Coast, then so be it. People are allowed to watch whatever they want. And again, it's the exact same footage that was not only broadcast live that day, but was available in its entirety the moment the live broadcast ended. You could go watch it. You just have to fast forward through a bunch of other crap. So what happened? Why this worked out so well for a big fan like me is I can sit there and watch it and see the golf, because that's what I care about. As much as I dig the drone flyovers and the fancy graphics and the shot tracker and all the things they're trying to implement, I want to see what happened. I want to see the shots that got thrown and how it all went down. That's it. That's all I really care about. And again, I went back and watched all the high level stuff that Jomez put out and Central Coast put out. I watched all of it. But I didn't necessarily have to, because I got to see what happened. But it ends up just being a really phenomenal way for somebody who's a fan of Smashbox and a fan of the live coverage to catch up on rounds that they missed. Because not everybody can sit around and just watch live disc golf for 4 hours. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever it was. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever it was. So that's my opinion on all that stuff. That is my wrap-up of the Memorial Championships and the Gentlemen's Club Challenge. Big congratulations to Paul Macbeth and Ricky Wysocki for taking down their respective tournaments. And only one big congratulations goes out to Paige Pierce for winning both. She is going to be a real force to be reckoned with this year. Everybody else in her division better watch out. They better be out there working on their drives, working on their putting, and figuring out a way that they're going to be able to compete with her. Because if she continues to play at the level that she played at the Memorial, it's going to be a real challenge for people to catch up. I look forward to the rest of the battles in the Men's Pro Open division this year. It just seems like they just keep hitting new and greater levels of professionalism and ability. And it's just a really exciting time to be a disc golf fan with so much great coverage out there, so much amazing golf being played, tons of events, different tours, different courses all over the country. It's just going to be a great season, and I'm super stoked for it. Thanks very much for listening to me ramble about disc golf. Much love to everybody out there. If you have any questions for me or anything to add that you noticed or that you thought about any of the stuff that I touched on in this event or anything I missed, feel free to leave a comment below. I will check you guys later. All right, cheers.